Welcome to Heart of the West, where every mark tells a tale. Steam billowed from the train as Amara Wilson descended onto the platform, her pale hat symbolizing hopes for a fresh start. 6 months of fragrant correspondence and 3 weeks of rail travel had brought her here, seeking refuge from the cruelty of city life. Yet the tiny station offered no welcoming faces. Harold Pierce raised his hat with the wariness of someone approaching danger, locked eyes with her briefly, then went. "Ashen, you're Amara?" he asked. "I am, Mr. Pierce," she replied. The flowers in his grass began to droop. "You never mentioned that you were ... double quotes." His words vanished unfinished. Amara sensed the heaviness of all those letters packed in her trunk below. Colored, that was never hidden. My heart poured onto every page. Harold retreated. "You should have mentioned it." She raised her head with the composure of someone who needs no permission to breathe. "Mentioned what? That my complexion matches the soil that built your wealth. If pale skin was your requirement, you only needed to put it in writing." The quiet that descended was dense as engine smoke. Amara gripped her hat not to conceal herself, but to remember she had arrived complete. As the train's horn sounded, she understood that even in rejection, she remained free to decide what came next. Harold broke into a nervous sweat, noticing the stares gathering on Riverbrook's platform. A refined black woman already commanded attention, being abandoned by a white gentleman in broad daylight created theater. "You must see my predicament," he stuttered, retreating as if she were aflame. "My standing, my enterprise." He extended a return ticket like it was charity. Amara's response emerged unwavering, powered by contained fury. "I liquidated everything to reach this place." The whispers around them ceased. Harold, overwhelmed by his own weakness, fumbled for crumpled courtesy and offered, "Lodging until you sort things out." The crinkling bills were his final gesture of control. A commanding voice, clear as lightning in drought, sliced through the gathering. "Your answer, Pierce? Toss cash and pray she boards tomorrow's departure." The speaker emerged from the crowd towering, weathered, dressed in the understated garments only the truly affluent wear, without labels. His stare paralyzed Harold like a judgment. The onlookers held their breath. Amara maintained her dignity. The railway hadn't marked her journey's conclusion. Something unprecedented had materialized, and nobody dared look away first. "This isn't your business, Maxwell," Harold snapped, though his voice trembled with barely concealed dread. Alexander moved into the suffocating space. His footsteps shattered the silence, stopping within arm's reach of Amara. His tone, previously cutting, now carried courtesy. "Miss, I'm Alexander Maxwell. My ranch lies just miles away." Amara acknowledged him directly. Experience had taught her that kind offers usually carried hidden costs. "I'll speak plainly," Maxwell continued. "You're invited to stay. I have vacant quarters, and my housekeeper yearns for company. Remain as long as necessary while you plan ahead." The proposition echoed through the station. Harold gasped, recovered, and muttered, "Have you lost your senses? The entire community will gossip." Maxwell turned deliberately, his cold smile never touching his eyes. "You mean those same people cultivating my property? The ones awaiting my approval come month's end? Their opinions matter when their fields lie barren." Harold's color fled. Too late, he grasped he wasn't confronting a peer, but the man controlling half the region's harvest. Amara studied Maxwell carefully. The question wasn't whether to accept refuge, but what cost lurked behind such an appealing proposal. When the locomotive released its final steam cloud, Amara left the platform carrying a battered trunk and a secret powerful enough to shake Riverbrook's foundations. Torn between wounded pride and the need to advance, she recognized that the stairs weren't curiosity, they reflected fear of change itself. Days afterward, passing through Maxwell's gates, she discovered Alexander had understated his circumstances. This wasn't a ranch, but a Victorian estate encircled by endless fields. Thoroughbreds grazed peacefully, as if protecting memories of previous inhabitants. "This community remains frozen in time," Alexander whispered. "Pierce merely voices the prejudice everyone pretends doesn't exist." He gestured toward the porch, where ivory columns supported more than architecture, they upheld illusions of supremacy. Mrs. Foster waited at the entrance, her bearing erect, her voice measured, her authority absolute. She welcomed Amara with cordial neutrality. "Your blue chamber awaits. The window overlooks the garden, our most peaceful spot." If she felt surprise at their black visitor, her expression revealed nothing. walking corridors lined with ancestral paintings, Amra's footsteps seemed to awaken whispers within the walls. Ancient floorboards groaned like warnings, secrets buried. In darkness never stay hidden long. When hers emerged, Harold Pierce would realize too late that judging worth by skin tone was merely the first error in a lengthy catalog. Over dinner in the Grand Hall, Alexander shared portions of his background. Born in the North to a banker, an educator deeply committed to abolition, he'd inherited not just fortune, but firm beliefs in equality. Arriving in Riverbrook 15 years prior, locals deemed him eccentric to wealthy to dismiss, to principled. For elite acceptance. After discussing his various enterprises, he leaned forward with the question hanging unspoken. Miss Wilson, what qualifications brought my colleague to invite you so specifically? Amara let silence settle, moved by his candor. I teach literature and history to young black women in Boston. When our school closed, I knew it was time for change. What she concealed was her grandfather's secret bequest of former butler who'd saved coins across decades, and crucially, documents that could redefine vast land ownership throughout Riverbrook. Everything lay hidden in her trunk's false bottom. Subsequently, Alexander provided something rare, space for contemplation. The mansion's library, packed with ancient volumes, became her sanctuary. There, she studied maps, municipal records, and legal texts. When questioned about her extensive research, Amara simply smiled and claimed she was expanding her knowledge vague enough to maintain everyone's intrigue. 7 days sufficed for rumors to penetrate every street in the small town. Suddenly, Maxwell Manor's bells rang constantly. Inquisitive neighbors, merchants, wives, even the minister, everyone discovering urgent reasons to seek Alexander's attention. During afternoon tea, following another group's departure, he shook his head while gazing at the garden. Observe the procession. You become the primary spectacle without entering the town square. Amara raised her cup, smiling with weary irony. I've been an exhibition my entire existence, Mr. Maxwell. The difference now is I observe the audience. With china in hand, the bells chimed again. Harold Pierce appeared, hat clutched to his chest, face straining to project concern. Maxwell, he greeted shakily, I've come asking if Miss Wilson is adjusting well. She's thriving, Alexander replied, irony dripping from the word. Perhaps you'd prefer asking her directly. Harold straightened his collar as Amara appeared in the doorway. Mrs. Foster's tailored dress fit flawlessly, and the exhausted, dust-covered traveler had vanished. Standing there was a woman who claimed her place with confident steps and an unapologetic gaze. Harold Pierce crossed the threshold cautiously. He adjusted his hat, cleared his throat, and announced, Miss Wilson, the community expresses certain concerns. Amara arched an eyebrow, offering a smile devoid of warmth. Concerns regarding my well-being or my residence? Harold studied the stained glass before continuing about the circumstances. An unwed woman dwelling in a bachelor's home. Many consider it improper, particularly ... double quotes. His sentence dissolved when Alexander Maxwell, positioned by the fireplace, concluded in measured tones sharp as steel, because she's black, that's your meaning, Pierce? The visitor swallowed hard and persisted. The church board wishes to fund your return to Boston. They've begun collecting donations, Amara maintained, her smile while her eyes grew frigid. How considerate. However, I've chosen to remain in Riverbrook. Harold paled. Stay, you have no connections here. No employment. There you're mistaken. Mr. Maxwell has appointed me librarian. Generations of books require organization. Harold stared at Alexander, surprise morphing into rage. You cannot be serious. Alexander shrugged. I've never been more certain. My collection has never had better care. The ensuing silence made the ticking clock sound like drums, emphasizing that Amra's residence was established fact, not request. Harold departed Maxwell's library unaware of what he truly abandoned. To his eyes, merely dusty novels. In reality, files containing land records, contracts, and sketched maps held the past that Riverbrook family swore remained untouchable. From the window, Alexander watched his opponent's angry march across the garden. Without turning, he said, he'll exhaust every effort to obstruct you. Such pride never forgives. Amara half smiled, her voice steady. While he distributes convenient narratives, I seek the authentic account. In the following quiet, she returned to the archives. Among fragile pages, she aligned dates, seals, and signatures that, when examined sequentially, revealed a vastly different tale from that celebrated in the town's parlors. The most prized lands changed ownership when rightful holders could barely write their names. The Pierce family's prosperity, like many others, didn't stem from vision or wisdom, but from opportunities to claim what wasn't theirs. Outside, the community buzzed with gossip about the mansion's mysterious woman. Inside, every document Amara organized became a domino poised to topple, promising reactions powerful enough to shatter Riverbrook's polished self-image. 2 weeks after initial rumors began, the cramped town hall overflowed. Additional seating lined the walls, still insufficient. Many stood, watching Harold Pierce gesture wildly, his face crimson. "This is degrading," he bellowed. "Maxwell degrades our customs by sheltering that woman." Families worrying about rumors of unseemly behavior. Murmurs rippled through the crowd. The doors opened. Alexander Maxwell entered purposefully, followed by Amara Wilson, head held high. The noise ceased. "I appreciate this opportunity," Maxwell announced clearly. "I must address several misconceptions. Miss Wilson isn't my house guest. She represents U.S. all in a matter of universal concern." I shifted nervously. Harold laughed bitterly. "Representative? A woman of color lacking recognized authority." "Maxwell, have you lost your mind?" Amara placed documents on the table. "I'm a certified educator," she declared, meeting Harold's stare. "And legal representative of Joseph Freeman's direct descendants." The name fell like a stone into still water. Aged faces went white. "Joseph Freeman is folklore," Harold scoffed, seeking crowd support. "A fairy tale to frighten children." Amara lifted the first official page. "If he's mythology, then why does Mr. Pierce's signature appear here?" Amara entered the courtroom silently. Floorboard creaks were absorbed by curious murmurs. From her leather case, she withdrew yellowed, nearly crumbling pages. She displayed the original deed, dated 1866, signed by the governor, granting Joseph Freeman, formerly enslaved, and her great-grandfather, nearly 2/3 of Riverbrook, including the establishment owned by influential Mr. Pierce. Judge Thornton adjusted his spectacles, leaned toward the light, and breathed quietly. Across the room, Harold leapt up, calling the document fraudulent, but his voice cracked like frayed wire. Amara then arranged additional records on the table: testimonies, maps, meeting minutes demonstrating that in 1870, after surviving lynching attempts, Joseph fled. Subsequently, local families divided the property under the property committee designation. Alexander, the young librarian, explained that meeting minutes from 1870 to 1872 had vanished from archives until he and Amara traced cross-references. In forgotten inventories, Reverend Miller, his voice weathered by years, confirmed his father once spoke of that buried transgression. Without altering her tone, Amara proposed resolution, transforming the legal conflict into a community foundation, emphasizing education and affordable housing. A simple gesture that could turn the page and perhaps rewrite Riverbrook's destiny. Harold Pierce laughed dryly and shook his head. "Nobody will believe this narrative." The door opened as Attorney Jeff entered, sharp-suited and confident. "The State Commission validated every document," he announced, raising his folder. "The case has been filed." The declaration struck like a gavel, resonating off marble walls. The room erupted in voices. Several council members exchanged glances, fully aware this case could transform property rights throughout the county. As reporters raised their devices, Harold approached Amara. "You orchestrated this entire scheme. Those letters were traps." She held his gaze. "I wrote about solitude in those letters. Your reaction from that first moment revealed your character. The same judgment my great-grandfather encountered. Appearance before substance." Harold went pale. "You'll destroy my family." "I don't wish homelessness on anyone," Amara responded. "I simply want to rectify an injustice recorded decades ago." He slumped into a chair as the council retreated to deliberate. Alexander approached, admiration evident in his expression. "You could have claimed everything," he whispered, "and I'd be no better than those who robbed my great-grandfather." "Justice isn't vengeance, it's restoration," she replied, leaving the promise that the town would never remain unchanged. At that charged town hall gathering, nobody recognized they were observing the opening chapter of a transformation destined to mark Riverbrook forever. As whispers trailed Amara through the exit, a plan was already forming, one transcending personal anguish. 6 months later, Freeman Foundation signs gleamed on the old brick warehouse facade. Resources recovered from historical fraud became scholarships sending youth to universities and grants revitalizing forgotten public spaces. Amara seldom appears in ceremonial photographs, preferring to move among volunteers, listening, adapting, guiding. Her quiet leadership resonates louder than any address because it demonstrates daily that the community can create something meaningful without denying its history. One significant symbol of this transformation now occupies the building formerly marked Pearson and Sons, home to Riverbrook's first public library. Children who'd never touched picture books race upstairs to the main hall, surrounded by accessible shelves and expansive tables encouraging dialogue. Harold Pierce departed on a stormy evening, selling everything at losses, now working behind grocery counters in another county. He avoids mentioning Riverbrook, as if speaking the name resurrects the weight of everything he abandoned. Alexander paused by the restored lake, watching Amara near the old greenhouse now blooming with color. You could have reduced it all to ruins, he said. Still somewhat amazed, she smiled, indicating the lawn where children painted, seniors shared recipes, students recorded interviews. Demolition would have provided 30 seconds of satisfaction. This creates stories for generations. The Freeman heir's choice made national headlines. Reporters arrived in vehicles, scholars examined archives. Podcasts debated how legal decisions can redraw territories. Every discussion returned to the same inquiry. Why would someone with such power choose rebuilding over destruction? Her correspondence overflowed with invitations, panels on historical justice, reparation conferences, artist residencies. Amara selected carefully, always presenting the legal framework that shifted courtroom tides. And one reminder, justice requires action. On autumn's first Sunday, the old Maxwell Mansion's hall, now the Freeman Maxwell House, hosted a gratitude dinner. Between silverware and gentle laughter, Judge Thornton raised his glass. To the woman who demonstrated that laws are mere words until someone enforces them in reality, the toast echoed under vaulted ceilings. Some looked away, ashamed for judging Amara by appearance upon arrival. Others applauded enthusiastically, knowing the story required additional chapters. Beside Martha Webb, now community school director, Alexander intertwined his fingers with Amra's. Who would have imagined it began with a harsh rejection on the train platform, he said, still somewhat astounded. Harold Pierce's greatest accomplishment was refusing you, she smiled. Even if he'll never acknowledge it, they stood before the old Central Square, where white founders' busts once dominated. Now only a bronze plaque remains. It recounts Joseph Freeman's story of farmer driven from his land and how that property returned to serve the community through classes, farmers markets, and outdoor libraries. As dusk settled over Riverbrook, Amara rested against the new porch railing, surveying the city lights. She'd arrived labeled an outsider, someone unwelcome. Now she walked with dignity, respected for maintaining her principles. Alexander appeared with steaming tea mugs and shared comfortable silence. Amara spoke first. Strange, isn't it? Harold couldn't tolerate a life outside his framework. That narrow-mindedness consumed him. Alexander chuckled softly. While you flourished, because of what he rejected, your resilience, your narrative, your authenticity. Steam rose from their cups like promises of unwritten chapters. Riverbrook absorbed. A lesson meant to resonate for generations. Each time we diminish someone to appearances, we slam doors on discovery and repel talents capable of transforming the world. Judgment constrains people. Listening creates possibilities. Amara Wilson Maxwell embodied that truth beneath the moon, illuminating the community that once spurned her. She didn't seek Harold Pierce's punishment. Instead, she chose to construct bridges, libraries, and opportunities that reduced that rejection to merely a footnote in the town's memory. Her response was legacy, vision, and tomorrow. The community, once frigid, discovered its genuine radiance. Came from the very diversity it had attempted to eliminate. If this journey of dignity inspired you, stay with us. Weekly, we present stories demonstrating how our differences, when embraced, can elevate entire communities. Subscribe, activate notifications, and join those transforming exclusion into opportunity.